Hello, everyone, and welcome to Reading with Reference. To all our usual viewers and any new ones, my name is Kim Christopher. I'm a reference librarian at the Haverford Township Free Library, and I am here again to talk about some of the things I've read recently to share with you. So, jumping right in here, I have the graphic novel Bowie, Stardust, Ray Guns, and Moonish Daydream by Michael Allred, Steve Hortman, and Laura Allred. And synopsis-wise, there's not much to say. Pretty straightforward. This graphic novel examines the life and times of David Bowie, from day one to everything in his musical career, the ups, the downs, the personas he adopted over the years, as well as his untimely, unfortunate death in 2016. Just his entire life is laid out for you to read in this graphic novel, and overall, then, I would say I would recommend this as a reading choice if you're a fan of David Bowie, either hardcore, casual, or otherwise, as it's just like this wonderful visual tribute, a collage, you might almost say, of just his entire life. All those albums he did, the artwork associated with him, the personas he adopted over the years, the costumes. Everything about David Bowie is presented in this graphic novel. You get a sense of nostalgia from it. It makes you want to re-listen to all his music, revisit those movie roles he had. And Jar from Labyrinth is what comes to mind for me. Probably something else for you, because he had so many roles over the years throughout his career. And I would say this is also something that's great if you are just a newcomer to his music even. As again, in that visual sort of collage style, it's almost like this museum, one could say, of just David Bowie, all his looks, all the songs, everything is in this graphic novel. And obviously they can't cover every single song and everything, but since he had such a long career. But again, if you're a newcomer to his music, you wanted to learn about him, you don't have the time to sit down and read that, 800-page long biography book, then Bowie is a wonderful visual way to be introduced to the man, his life, and his works. And on the last note, I would say that if you loved the movie Bohemian Rhapsody, you will love Bowie, as this is what would happen if Bohemian Rhapsody had been made instead into a graphic novel and focused instead on the life of David Bowie. So if you love Bohemian Rhapsody, love David Bowie's music, or just a newcomer to it, I assure you, this is a graphic novel you will love to get your hands on and read. And then, moving on here, I have the manga series, My Son Ikoku by Rumiko Takahashi. And this is just a romantic comedy manga series where it focuses on two central characters, Yusaku Godai and Kyoko Otanashi, where Yusaku, he's this failing college student who aspires to get into the most prestigious institution in all of Japan, but he's failing not because he's a bad student, but because of the people in his life. In this case, the other tenants at the dorm house where he lives, Maisen Ikoku, where they're, crazy for all intents and purposes. Yotsuya, the peeper who always literally breaks into his room to peep on the other tenants. Akemi, who's this hostess at a nightclub, always dressing suggestively and distracting Godai with her, shall we say, seductive moves. And Ichinose, she's a hard-drinking, partying woman who, instead of partying in her own room, parties in Yusaku's. And, he's always threatening to leave the place or even commit suicide to get away from these crazy people who are interfering with his life and his dreams. But in the process of going through this whole sort of step of failing in life and dealing with the crazy tenants, he meets Kyoko, the new landlord of Maisen Ikoku, who has taken over this place to try and get over... she's a recent widower, and she's trying to forget her feelings about the death of her young husband, and, for Godai, it's love at first sight. And the series itself, it follows the, you could say, love dance between these two characters. Godai always trying to fight over her with rivals, dealing with the crazy tenants again who love to view this love dance between the two of them, as well as being oblivious to girls who fall in love with him, And Kyoko herself, she's not too certain about it. She has feelings for Godai, but at the same time, she's conflicted about being faithful to her dead husband. And yeah, series just follows that really sort of complex love dance between the two of them. And overall, I would say that if you want a story or a series that sort of takes all the elements of those great love comedy movies or stories you've ever read that you love, you will love Maisin Ikoku then. And this isn't really like on like one of those top 10, top 50 lists of must-read series, books, manga, and whatnot. But Maisin Ikoku, it's a hidden gem in the midst of all of Rumiko Takahashi's works. She's more famously known for like Inuyasha, Ranma, Urusei Yatsura, all things that involve, aliens, time travel, demons, martial arts, all that sort of stuff. And Maisin Ikoku, it's down to earth. It's just a love comedy story that, like I said, combines all those things that we love from those movies, the books that we've read, everything. It's just a wonderful comedic love story that it's, in my opinion, it is a must-read in the world of manga. So, yeah. Maisin Ikoku, Rumiko Takahashi, one of her best works ever. And then, another manga series I have to talk about today is Doro Hedoro by Kyu Hayashida. And this is a really peculiar story, and yet it's a really engrossing one, where it's set in this sort of unspecified time in the future in a post-apocalyptic world, in a city called The Hole, where the survivors of this unspecified apocalypse are trying not just to survive in this ruined world, but also survive against the attacks, one could say, of sorcerers, wizards, people who use magic that emanates from smoke that comes from their bodies. And in the midst of all this chaos is the character of Kaiman. He's a character who has been cursed here to have the head of a lizard. And, well, he, along with his best friend Nikaido, who runs a ramen shop in the Hole, he goes on this journey to try and find out who cursed him. In this case, it's a wizard, because they're the only ones who can use magic and curses and all that. But whenever he comes across a wizard, he bites the wizard's head, and in Kaiman's mouth is a person who asks the wizard if they recognize them. And if the wizard answers in the negative, which they usually do, Kaiman disembowels them, kills them, and goes on to the next wizard. And the series just follows that, journey quest of Kaiman and Nikaido to find out who cursed Kaiman, and focuses more so on the friendship that these two have in this journey. And again, it's very hard to explain just how peculiar Doro Hedoro is, and yet at the same just time, how fascinating it is as a result of this post-apocalyptic story involving wizards, curses, magic that emanates from smoke, the martial arts and everything. It's a violent series. It's stark with all this artwork, and yet at the same time, it's also very humorous with the interactions of Nikaido and Kaiman. And so I would recommend this as a read if you are a fan of Japanese manga or even just a newcomer and you're looking for something very different. This does not conform to the usual standards of Japanese manga, all the popular ones, with all that action like Naruto, Bleach, or the love story ones. This is a very peculiar, not your run-of-the-mill manga story that's, I can't put it exactly into words, just how weird Doro Hedoro is, and yet at the same time, just how amazing of a story and series this is. So yeah, I recommend this only if you are looking for a really, really wild, peculiar story. And, well, yeah, that is all I can say about it without spoiling too much of the story. And that is everything I have to say about these recommendations today as well, again, without spoiling too much. And until we see each other again in another Reading with Reference, Please note, iLibrary is open. The hours are 10 to 8, Monday through Wednesday, Thursday 10 to 6, and Friday, Saturday 10 to 5. You can come into the library, browse the collections, check things out, and you can return things as well. Just be aware that it does take us 5 days to quarantine items returned and then check them in. We backdate items, so there are no fines accrued during that time. And also, there is a slight difference in checking out things like DVDs or video games. You can still check them out through the 3 days, but there's no fines to check the items out, and you can renew them as long as there aren't any holds on the items. And also, you can use our computers in the library. The time is only 40 minutes to use them. It's either by availability or you can call ahead and reserve a computer to use. And I believe that is everything I have to say for now at this time, and until we see each other again next week, I hope you all have a wonderful day and take care, everyone.